Have you ever felt the need or urge to cleanse your body? Maybe it's after a weekend of indulgence or simply as spring arises. In this video, we will uncover the truth behind detoxing. Detoxing has become a billion-dollar industry built on the promise of flushing out toxins from your body. But how much of this is backed by science and how much of it is a clever marketing technique? To help you answer that question, in this video we will be covering these topics. 1. What is detoxing in general? 2. When is it harmful and when is it helpful? And along with that, we'll be looking at some of the trends we might see today. And number 3, how different cultures and religions have practiced cleansing for ages in ways that go deeper than any social media. And of course, for a quick disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. My name is Britton with That Brainy Bee, and I have a background in psychology and biology. This is not medical advice. This is simply to educate you on how to be ethical, make ethical decisions for your wellness. So your body already has a natural detoxing system, and this includes the liver, your kidneys, your skin, your digestion. The liver is kind of the main detoxing organ, and what it does is it metabolizes and it helps eliminate those toxins. The kidneys kind of filter the blood and remove like waste products and toxins through your urine. And then the digestive system eliminates waste and toxins through bowel movement. The skin helps eliminate toxins through sweat, and then your lungs eliminate carbon dioxide and other waste products. And your lymphatic system is also a big part of this whole detoxification system. So that's a very quick overview of like your natural body's detoxing protocol and process. But as we can see, all of these systems work together to help eliminate waste products and toxins in our bodies. And unfortunately, the marketing side of things has noticed this rise in desire for detoxing. And unfortunately, we do live in a world where there is increased toxins and stuff. There's just this rise in the detox industry, and there's some marketing tactics and techniques that you might want to watch out for. Because according to the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, there is limited evidence supporting the effectiveness of these commercial detoxes. This is just a little quick overview of what to look for in marketing tactics and techniques that you might want to be skeptical of. Fear tactics. If a company is selling a service or product and they're trying to scare you into buying it, that's something to be cautious of. Using certain terminology like, oh, this world full of toxins, you need to detox, like, and that sense of urgency as well. Those two tactics of the fear and then a sense of urgency saying you only have 10 days to buy it, well, that's a great marketing technique in the appropriate situation. That can be shady. With that, buzzwords like what I was just saying, flush toxins out, and even like cellular regeneration, alkalinizing. People that have no idea what those terms mean might just throw them out there to get you to like trust them and buy their product because, oh, if you know these scientific terms, then you are trustworthy. And it's psychology, it's a trick, it's just tricking you. They might even wear a doctor's coat without being a doctor just to trick you into trusting them to buy their product. And with that too, they might bring in a celebrity or influencer that has no idea about detoxing just to get you to trust them more, because if you idolize that influencer or celebrity, then if you see them on this advertisement for AG1, then you're more likely to buy it because you already support that influencer. With that sense of urgency and fear, quick fixes. Anybody that says that, oh, I felt better after one day of using this, oh, this fixed me, oh, this fixed everything for me, that you should be cautious of as well, because it's subtracting that individuality of treatment. It's not even considering like individual specific health consideration. You're again just generalizing to a much larger population when you probably shouldn't be and might not have the evidence or even expertise to be making those claims. So that's kind of what to look out for and some of the maybe shady statements to watch out for. So when is detoxing important, because there is definitely medical instances where detoxification should be supported and should be maybe focused on more than other times. So I'm just going to give you a list of some of the specific cases and incidents. I'm not going to cover every instance, and I'm not, again, a professional, so there's going to be like very specific cases and individual conditions that might need more support, but these are some to consider if you are questioning, do I need a detox? Am I somebody that needs to detoxify my body? Detoxification can help support through alcohol and drug withdrawal, any substance withdrawals. There's already a detoxification process happening in your body, so it might be beneficial for a medical professional or professional to support somebody through that detoxification process, because as we know, unsupervised detoxification and if you are on heavy substances and you just immediately eliminate those, that can wreak havoc on the body if you are not properly supporting like your metabolizations and all of that. But we'll get into more of the dangers of detoxification. If you have poisonings or if you are overdosing, again, your body naturally responds and starts trying to detoxify any toxic substance in your body. Now, there's certain cases where it's not able to do that. If you have poison, if you ingest poison, your body is gonna probably make you throw it up because it knows that, oh, this is not good, we need to get rid of this. And then in turn, like if you're throwing up, then you can be dealing with dehydration as well. So there's other supports in the detoxification. Any medical professionals or anybody that's, any educator, say I recommend my bestie Becky to do a detox. I'm not the one that's doing the detoxing for her. I'm not the one that's detoxifying her body. No, I'm helping her support her body through detoxing. And they shouldn't claim, if anybody claims that that product is doing your detoxing, it's not necessarily true, because you're actually just supporting your systems through the detoxifications. So that's just a little spiel on that. Another instance where detoxing might be helpful in like a medical situation or just in general when it might be recommended by a medical professional is in liver failure or in kidney failure, or if you have issues with like your urea cycle. There's just certain medical situations and instances where supporting those detoxifications processes, urging them to happen, because if your kidneys or liver are not functioning properly, then your detoxification system is not functioning properly in general either. So a medical professional might try and support the liver, or they might recommend that, diet changes, or there's so many things that they might recommend, but they also might just in general try and look into supporting the detoxification processes. In cancer treatments, they might do certain therapies to help support detoxification, treatments like radiation, chemotherapy, and so in turn they might provide nutrients, because lack of nutrients can also affect your detoxification. I am not familiar with cancer in any way to necessarily speak on this, but I do know that it's just really hard on the body. So let's talk about a much more common theme and what I feel like can be the most dangerous. Let's talk mold and exposures. In this day and age, this is something I see and I myself was very nervous about. And I'm just like, sometimes I see things, I read things like, shit, even in our plants, the dirt in our house plants can have mold in it. So how are you supposed to, are you constantly supposed to detoxify to get rid of that? Those questions are very common, and you see so many people just so scared. Genuinely so scared, wanting to live in a bubble because of these certain claims and statements made on social media and certain things that surface. And there's exposure, and people are so scared about microplastics. And so I'm not going to be able to go into all of that, but I hope to be able to give some relief and answer some questions about mold and exposure, and help you ask yourself and have the answer to when do I need a detox? Obviously, if you are living in a house with rodents, rat poop all over the place, and cockroaches, bed bugs, maybe you have some mold growing all over the place, and this is not to judge anybody. If you're in that situation, you're in that situation for a reason. I'm not anybody to judge you for that. But if you're in that situation, you are probably being exposed to toxins in the air, potentially. That can be very dangerous, and it can have harmful effects on our bodies in general. So those instances, yes, it probably is good to make sure you're supporting natural detoxifications. Obviously, any professional is going to recommend and really try and support you. Well, I hope that they try to support you through getting out of that situation or removing some of those dangerous substances and stuff. But of course, we know that there's just certain funding troubles, or you might be dealing with financing issues. We can't control that necessarily all the time. So if you can't remove those substances in that instance, the best thing would be to try and support your natural detoxification processes. But of course, with the rising trends of detoxification and the rising trend of fear mongering, I guess, around like mold exposures and that kind of stuff, and it's just scary. It is scary. It's hard to know when is it that I'm actually like exposed to mold where it's to the point I need to detoxify, or not detoxify, like work to support my detoxification processes, or am I just kind of being a little bit over the top and a little over worried. If you're in a not well ventilated area, if it's like a small space and you are constantly exposed to dangerous mold like black mold, that's not good. That is an instance where you probably should start to look into supporting yourself, start to look into a valid approach to treating that situation. So obviously, like I said, removing the source first, that is what any professional is going to recommend to you. I'm talking to the state, possibly, maybe you can look into like some insurance coverage on that. I am not at all a professional to give advice on that specifically. There is different options to try and tackle that situation. Of course, medications might be recommended to you, like antihistamines or corticosteroids, or maybe even antifungals might be recommended if there is an infection, but that needs to be recommended by a medical professional. Don't just go out and get antihistamines because you're living in a molded home. But mold detoxing and the marketing of it all, if there is some detoxing supplement that claims that they eliminate mycotoxins, you probably want to be cautious about that and do further research, because they are making very specific claims and you want to know that there's actual evidence and research to back it up. IV detoxing drips. I haven't seen this much personally. I have seen some like IV like instances, and I think that could probably potentially be helpful for somebody, but the marketing techniques of like an IV drip for detoxification, that you want to double check as well. And some other things like extreme diets, like fasting based. I believe that fasting can be extremely medical. I think that it can be extremely beneficial, and there is now scientific research coming to back it up. Of course, in specific cases, you might have heard of 80-20. I know some people really hate on the term 80-20. It's often associated with like 80% non-toxic and 20% like more processed-y foods and more toxic type stuff. I like just the term of variability. I think having a good variety in like supportive methods and daily relief in your diet as well, I think that's what's really important. One more instance that it might be beneficial is in certain exposures. If you are in a factory often, working with lead, working with mercury, if you're exposed to that kind of stuff, of course, consult a professional, because a professional will more than likely talk to you about a binder. And this is when detox support might help you. So binders are considered like activated charcoal. Some doctors, especially in like the integrative field, they might recommend these binders to help support, to help bind to mycotoxins, but the research is definitely limited for that. And then there's also like nutritional support. So a doctor might just recommend that you get adequate nutrition and that you're just really focusing on your diet and just encouraging like naturally detoxifying foods that support those systems specifically. That might be what they recommend for you in those instances. So for all of those instances, obviously it's important to consult a professional. If you don't have access to that, then just consider where are you at and what system in your body is being affected by it. And that's not cut and dry either. But just to help you answer that question, so if you're being exposed to black mold, then that's going to be affecting your respiratory system, definitely. And it could show up in your skin as well. I talked about allergies in my other video, and we talk about like skin reactions with allergies, asthmatic responses. There's such a connection between allergies, asthma, and your skin. So let's get into some of the risks associated with detoxing. And we already kind of covered these, so this will be very vague. But obviously, you run the risk of dehydration. You run the risk of liver damage if you're not supporting your liver and you're just putting a bunch of heavy load on that. That's why certain like herbal supplements can be very dangerous, because you're just putting a lot of pressure on like these certain systems like your liver, your kidneys, and if you're not supporting your other systems, it can kind of get out of balance. Just like this world in today, there's that swinging pendulum of like integrative health and regular medical health, and of course that's kind of where these detoxifications can come from as well, because there's a lot of wishy-washy stuff around this day and age, and the medicine and our food and stuff, so it gets really scary and confusing. And so like seeing all of these like products that have these great promises, it can feel really good, and it can give you some like false sense of hope. But obviously we just need to be careful about and really understand how is it going to affect our body, and what like organ system is it going to potentially put some pressure on. And of course, vulnerable populations. For children, you want to be very cautious with our kiddos because their bodies are not built for heavy detoxes. So obviously consult a medical professional or some professional. In pregnancy, it can also be dangerous because it's not just mom, it's mom and baby. Another vulnerable population that might not be like directly affected is our elderly, because if we are putting these pills on a pedestal on, oh, it's gonna get rid of back pain, oh, it's gonna help you control your urine, oh, it's going to get rid of the toxins associated with Parkinson's, it's like literally prying on a vulnerable population, because these ladies, my little residents in the memory care unit, still have access to television and the internet, and they can still see the paper. And so if you have a product that you're selling and advertising as like a cure-all, fix-all, they might be more willing to give you the money for it. And it can be very dangerous on them as well, because it's more than likely, my little lady residents, they were taking like sometimes upwards of like 10 to 15 pills at a time. Some populations to consider that might do detoxifications in kind of a different way, that we should probably be respectful of, and you just want to be educated about, especially as a healthcare provider. Fasting is definitely, so in like, even in Islamic traditions and in Christianity, in a lot of religious practices, Fasting is known as like an act of purification and reflection, refreshing. So you definitely want to be educated on those specific practices and be respectful with anybody that is coming to you, maybe asking for guidance on it. You just want to be respectful and understand where they're coming from and what their beliefs are, their values, and why are they considering a detox and why are they doing fasting, all of that kind of stuff. So that's just a little note I wanted to add in there. I just want to get it all gathered together so you can maybe write out a little list if you'd like. So these are things you want to look out for. Vague and pseudoscientific claims. So anybody that says something like this is for cellular restoration and like doesn't explain that, that's a vague and pseudoscientific claim. If they're saying that you can detoxify these extreme toxins, that you have mycotoxins of your body, that's also vague and more than likely a pseudoscientific claim. Next would be dramatic results. So even like having before and afters of like these crazy changes. So here are just some things you can consider for supporting your natural detoxing. Obviously, a balanced diet and making sure you're getting good nutrition, making sure you're hitting all the nutrients that you need. If you need the help, if you feel like you are lacking in this area, look to a registered dietitian or a professional that is very familiar with it. Another thing would be regular exercise and regular activity. I mean, as we talked about, the skin helps detoxify by sweating. So doing your workouts is going to also help that. But that's not to say that doing a workout that doesn't break a sweat isn't encouraging like your lymphatic movements and stuff like that. So that is something to consider as well. If you're somebody that likes to just go for a walk every day, then that works for you. That's great. So then another thing would be getting adequate hydration. If you are one of those people that likes to work out like 3 times a week, make sure you're getting enough hydration for that as well. Those are some things to help support your natural detoxification. With all that being said, I would love to hear your experiences, questions, or considerations in the comments below. This is not cut and dry and everybody is so different. And for more support and ideas for balanced nutrition, I do some other videos on here and on TikTok. I also have an Instagram series dedicated to like making different drinks and stuff. If you're interested in checking that out, I will put the link in the comments below, or find me at That Brainy Bee. You can find me pretty much anywhere. Be sure to check those videos out, and if you're more of a reader, you could also check out my blog at thatbrainybee.com. Don't forget that you are loved, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.